Hello, my name's Sean. I'm an academic developer here at the University of Strathclyde, and the tool that I'm going to demonstrate today is called MindMup 2.0. And MindMup is a productivity app that is great because you can use it in a few different ways. It works either as a standalone application, or you can connect it to your Google Drive, and I'll talk about the advantages of using it in Google Drive, which is the way that I use it in due course. And essentially, as you've probably guessed, MindMup is in fact a mind mapping tool that allows you to create and style really clean but also quite detailed mind maps with attachments and images and other cool stuff that you can embed right into the digital file. And I first started using this tool because in most of the sessions that I teach and in the consultancy work that I do, when we're working with a large group, it's always nice to break them into smaller groups to do practical activities. And where possible, I think probably most of us do this because it facilitates things like peer instruction, it can enable problem-solving activities, and the members of the group are much more likely to be active within that setting. And the kind of classic way of making this happen and facilitate it is to divide the group into smaller groups of, say, 4 or 5 people, give them all a big piece of flip chart paper and a Sharpie that you'll never see back at the end of the session, and to ask someone to annotate or doodle or write notes as the group go through their work. But then at the end of the session, what happens? So it might be that you have someone in your group, a very proactive student, for example, who decides that they're going to take their smartphone and to photograph the piece of work, and maybe they then WhatsApp it or email it to the other members of their small group. And maybe you're quite proactive as a teacher as well, so maybe what you do is you go around all the groups and photograph the pieces of flip chart paper and email it out to the participants or add it to the virtual learning environment at the end of the session. But I think in my experience, by and large what happens is you take these big unwieldy pieces of paper back to your office, they very quickly go into the recycling, and the work might never be seen again. And you know, that might be fine, but it's probably almost always a bit of a missed opportunity. I'm thinking about situations, for example, where if we've ever been in a group where there has been a mind mapping exercise and one of us has been asked to try and digitize or record that mind map for posterity, it can be really, really difficult to think about how you translate something which has been written on a large piece of paper in pen into something which is digital and works and can be shared. There might be other scenarios where, for example, what if your group have been meeting virtually, either on a Google Hangout or via Skype for Business? Does one of the members of the group, have the difficult task of being given that piece of flip chart paper and writing down notes and then kind of holding it up periodically to the webcam or sending screenshots to the other members of the group? What about if you are working in a way where you're using a mind map as a kind of storyboard or a way of organising ideas or documenting the progress of a group through a piece of work? Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to then go back to that mind map and to update it periodically so that it becomes a living document or record of how the group has been progressing towards a certain set of goals? And the kind of third main scenario is one where we might have assigned the mind mapping activity as a part of an assessment for a class that we're teaching. And we really need a clean version of that mind map so that we can assess and grade and give feedback. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that there are probably lots of situations and scenarios where it would be advantageous to have a digital tool that's doing a lot of that work for us. And it was really that kind of experience of being in these situations which caused me a number of years ago to seek out a tool that would do something like this. And it's there that I came across MindMup, and I've been using it, as I said, via Google Drive ever since. So without further ado, what we can do is to dive straight in, and I'll give you a working example of how I use the tool, what sort of affordances it offers, and who knows, maybe inspire one or two of you to pick up the tool and use it within your work as well. So as I've mentioned, there are a couple of different ways in which we can use MindMup. The first way is to use it in its standalone application, and to do that we're going to go to the website. We're going to search for MindMup 2.0. I'm going to click on the website here, and it's really as simple as clicking Get Started. There is a gold paid for subscription service that unlocks even more functionality, but for those of you who are just testing it out and dipping a toe in the water, so to speak, I would recommend just clicking Get Started. And we're here on MindMup Cloud. Free users can create public maps up to 100 kilobytes and save them for up to 6 months with no account or registration needed. So we're happy with that. We're going to click Create a New Map, and that's going to take us to the software here. The other way of doing that, of course, as I've mentioned, is to do it in Google Drive. So those of you who are Google users and who are familiar with Drive, I have opened up a folder here, and I'm going to right click, go to More, and you'll see here, sorry, I'll click a little bit higher so you can see what's going on there. You'll see here I have MindMup 2.0 already connected to my Google Drive, but if you haven't done that before, then the first thing you need to do is click Connect More Apps. I'll search for MindMup, and here what you would do is you would have a button to connect MindMup to your Google Drive, so you would click that. And once it's connected, then it's a simple case of right clicking, going along to More, and clicking MindMup 2.0 for Google Drive. Now, MindMup is really quite intuitive. You have all of your controls across the top here, and you have this kind of working area here at the bottom. So the first box that we're going to work on is already there for you. Press space or double click to edit. So if I double click, then I can simply delete the text and type my own text. So let's imagine we're making a mind map to talk about social media in higher education. And I'll click on that. I think maybe the text is a little bit small, so I'll go up here and click until I have a nice big piece of text in the middle. And now I can start adding nodes, and the way in which I do that is by going up here to insert child node, or I can right click on the mind map and have a little quick menu here, which is going to provide me with that same option. So I'll insert a child, and let's say we want to talk about some examples of social media platforms that we might want to explore. And again, I'll just click to make the text bigger. Another thing you can do, of course, is change the colour. So if you want to have your own colour scheme, or you want to use colour to demarcate the different nodes, then that's something that you can do. Let's add another child node, and let's say that one of the examples of a social media platform that I want to talk about in teaching is Twitter. Cool. So maybe what I want to do is add an image. So I can do that by right clicking and selecting the node image. And that'll give me the opportunity either to upload one of my photos. You can see this is taking it from my Dropbox. That's a rather awkward looking photograph of me, but never mind. Or I can do a Google image search. So let's search for Twitter on Google Images. And this will show up results that have a Creative Commons license, which means that they can be reused with modification. So it should be okay for me to use these, adapt them in my mind map without entering into any copyright infringement. What I would definitely do is, if you're going to publish this mind map somewhere, I would definitely check the copyright permissions of all of the images that you use, rather than just assuming that because an image has come up here in this box that it's acceptable to use. We always want to be as careful as possible that we're modelling best practice in regards to copyright and the properties of the images we use and so on. Okay, so I like this image here. I'm going to add that to my MindMup. What it's going to now do is take a copy of this image and upload it to my Google Photos. So it's using Google as a go-between between the internet and the mind map that I'm creating. I think that height's probably a little bit big. Let's say I want to have an image that's 150. And so when I press enter or keep the aspect ratio, that will make the height 150 as well. And I want the image to display above the text. Okay, and when I click save, now I've got a little example of the Twitter icon and the word Twitter beneath. Okay, let's add a few more just to show you the functionality. I'm going to insert a sibling mode, which is going to add another node which is branching directly off of this example of social media. So a child would come up to the right of my Twitter icon here. A sibling is at the same level as my Twitter. So let's do the same. We'll go for Facebook. I'll right click, I'll add a node image. We'll do a Google image search for Facebook, and let's take this one here. Again, with that caveat that we want to check the copyright, so I'd want to go directly to the image and find out more about it, particularly before I use it in any external applications. Okay, very nice. Now, one of the great things about this being a digital tool is that we can use hyperlinks in our MindMap. So let's say I want to add a hyperlink to my Feedly. Feedly is a really nice content curation tool which can be a great way of sort of feeding your social media. So I'll click on my Feedly here. I'll find a hyperlink and I'll copy it. I'll go back to my MindMap, and if I click in here, Control V and hit enter, then this recognizes that it's a hyperlink, and so by clicking on this link it'll open up in another tab my Feedly, which is really cool, and again part of that added functionality of using a digital tool to create our mind maps. Okay, now let's say I want to add a document, for example. Let's take it over to this side of the mind map here, because like in any mind map we would be kind of branching off in different directions. I'll add a child node over here, and I'll click for research and evidence, and again I'll increase the size of the text a little bit, change the color to a nice pink color, and add another child node here. We'll call this research paper, and I'll either right click or take from the top menu there and attach a file. And I want to upload a file from my computer because I know that I've got some journal articles here. And let's take this one about technology enhancing learning within higher education. So this has given me a little hyperlink here, which I can click on. I can click open, and it'll take me directly to a copy of the journal article, which is fantastic. You can unlock even more functionality by using Google Drive to kind of optimize the way in which the document displays within this MindMup. So if I close it down here, go along to my Google Drive, you'll see that it's copied a copy of the PDF directly into my files on Google Drive. Now, what I need to do is change this to a Google Doc. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to select Open With, and I'm going to go into Google Docs. And when I do that, what happens is the file is converted to a Google Doc, and a copy of that Google Doc is saved within my Google Drive. Fantastic. So you'll see that appear here. Now, if I go back into my MindMup, I'll just remove that hyperlink, and this time let's add a hyperlink to the Google Doc, which appears in my Google Drive. Cool. So does that make sense? Now what I do when I click on it here, I actually see a window where I can scroll down and preview the paper. So again, without even clicking open, I can see the title of that paper, a little bit about it, and I could, even if I wanted to, I could begin kind of selecting text from there and pasting it elsewhere. So using that functionality that Google Drive offers is really advantageous. Perfect. So now I'm at the point where I've populated this mind map, I'm really happy with it, and I want to think about sharing it with other people. There are a couple of different ways in which you can do that. If your mind map doesn't use any images or has very little information kind of embedded directly into it, then it should be possible to download a copy of the mind map as either a PDF or a PNG, but only if you've remained within that 100 kilobyte limit. And I think probably because I've used these two images I might be over that, but let's see if that's actually the case. So I go File, Download As, and I want to do it as a PNG. Export. Yeah, so this file is too large for free exports and requires a MindMup Gold account. So how am I going to get an image copy of this mind map? Well, it's very simple. On Mac, I'm going to hit Command Shift 4. I'm going to drag an area that I want to save as a screenshot. What that does is it actually saves a PNG version of this, which should now be again on my desktop. So that's one way of kind of bypassing the limitations there of the free version. Another thing you can do is you can share a hyperlink to your mind map. So I can either click Get a Shareable Link, which opens up a few options here. I've got the options of to set the permission of what people do when they access the mind map via that link. So let's say anyone with this link can edit. And I'm going to copy the hyperlink. I could email that to some of my colleagues, and then when they click on that link they'll be able to go directly to the mind map and begin editing, changing things around themselves. So that means that this can provide really good kind of workability, and it can also facilitate that asynchronous working. Me and my 3 colleagues don't have to be working on this mind map at the same time. They can access it whenever suits them from a remote location if they want, and we can still collaborate together on this one piece of work. So that's really excellent. Another thing I can do, of course, is just like any Google Docs or any files in Google that I want to share, I can type people's email addresses and send a link to them directly. So hopefully this has given you some sort of insight into just how useful and how kind of rich in features this rather simple piece of software is. I guess the very last thing we have to consider is how you would embed a mind map within the virtual learning environment in Strathclyde in our MySpace. So probably the easiest way of doing that is to either embed our screenshot or that hyperlink directly into one of our topics here in a MyPlace course. I think probably what I'll do is add this as a label. Again, there are lots of different ways in which you can do that. So I'll click on the label resource. I'll wait for what seems like an unreasonable amount of time. And then I could, if I wanted to just embed a static version of the mind map, I would just kind of drag my screenshot into the label, and if I wanted to, I could add some text. Here is a little mind map created using MindMup 2.0 and save it that way. And the great thing about using a label is that it'll display on the course page. So if you want to have maybe something at the top of your course, a schematic of how the different weeks are structured or something like that, then this will appear directly on the course homepage. Again, I can increase the functionality of this even more by making that mind map also a hyperlink. So again, I'll go back into Edit, click on the image itself, click hyperlink, and then what I'm going to do is to copy this link directly. I've lost it. Here we are over here. Directly as a URL. Open a new window and create link. So now when I save and return to class, not only do I have an image of our mind map in our MyPlace class, but anyone who clicks on the link will be taken directly to, so if I turn editing off and give you an idea of what this looks like when, say, a student comes and visits our course, if I click on this image, then it'll open up open with MindMup 2.0 for Google, and here I am with the ability to edit, to add nodes, to connect nodes to one another, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this has given you a bit of an insight into the use of MindMup, the way in which we can integrate it both with Google Drive and ultimately with the virtual learning environment at Strathclyde, maybe giving you a few ideas of how you might be able to add that to your workflow. I think where it's really useful is, we can think about it as almost a tool for teachers to create little visual schematics and infographics. But where it really comes into its own is when you have a group of people working together on a project. And so for that reason, I think it's something that students might be able to really get their teeth into and create, really nice storyboards or mind maps, which can help them in working towards those group activities, group assessments, and so on and so forth.